Can you imagine the fact that we still have 3 years and 10 more months of this? This chaos? This absurdity? And that the only thing that's standing between them being able to do what they want is our judicial system. Welcome back to Unbelievable Reality Podcast. I am Roy Arthur. Don't forget to subscribe and follow on TikTok and Instagram. Anyway, so off we go. Normally, the beginning of every podcast, I like to give a literary reference. Usually it's a book that I've actually read. And promote literacy, i.e. pick up a book and fucking read. I don't know how many people actually are doing that. There seems to be one book out there that everybody's reading, and it's The Complete History of the United States of America by Mr. Zen. It's supposed to be so controversial, yeah, because it basically talks about truths. But I digress. You get used to that after a while. If you've watched the podcast before, you understand. I found this book, though, when I was at a bookstore. Man, if you're a bibliophile, a bookstore, it's like an adult kid in a candy shop. Just so full of information and stories and ideas. And yeah, I'm addicted to books. But I found this book that I just thought totally encapsulates capitalism and the United States of America perfectly. And I will be honest, I have not read this yet, but just the fucking title alone made me have to grab it, and I am going to read this, and I am going to reflect on it in my next podcast. But for a literary reference for today, this to me is America in a nutshell. The title, For God, Country, and Coca-Cola. Sit with that. If this doesn't encapsulate American capitalism at its finest, I fucking do not know what does. Let me give you some historical reference here so you'll kind of get your mind around this, because this is really fascinating. Coca-Cola is the oldest corporation in the United States, still in existence. Okay? Let that fucking sink in for a minute. Coca-Cola. And if you are one of the people that have lived under a rock for most of your life and aren't aware of the fact that Coca-Cola was originally sold as a health tonic with the booster of cocaine to stimulate health, then you're fucking oblivious. But the company originally sold its formula in bottles as an elixir, as a health supplement. And I gotta be honest with you, you ingest some cocaine, you feel a whole lot better. You do. And they did that right up until cocaine obviously was outlawed because it's addictive as shit. And we discovered other cool things like morphine and heroin and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Coca-Cola started with cocaine. Once cocaine was outlawed, they just added caffeine. So you'd still get the stimulant effect of cocaine. Now, the original recipe for Coca-Cola is one of the most closely guarded secrets in the United States, which that's another thing. Coca-Cola, the drink, the beverage, is sugar water. No ands, ifs, or buts. Sugar water with a massive dollop of caffeine and carbonation. That's it. Hummingbird food. That's what Coca-Cola is. It's hummingbird food. And yet, this is the oldest continually existing corporation in the United States of America, 150 years of Coca-Cola. And don't get confused here. Coca-Cola is a multi-billion dollar conglomerate now. They're no longer just satisfied with selling Coca-Cola. No, they sell root beer. I believe Mountain Dew is one of their brands. They're big on bottled water. Tap water, by the way, it has been proven, is the bottled water that Coca-Cola sells. In addition to which, the bottled water that Coca-Cola sells is the highest concentration of microplastics in the industry. In other words, they put their bottled water, which comes out of a tap, kind of like what you get out of your kitchen. They don't even decide, they don't even admit to whether they filter it or not. Free water, put it in bottles, cheapest kind they can find, full of microplastics, which now research is proving microplastics are really bad for your brain, excuse me, and every other organ in your fucking body. Coca-Cola is now a conglomerate. They have holdings all over the world. The biggest, most famous brand in the world is Coca-Cola. And once again, the entire company is hummingbird food. And it's all sugar and shit. And they've made billions and 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 billions of dollars selling shit. And if that is not American capitalism to a T, I honestly do not know what is. I mean, maybe Tesla might come to mind as another product that's complete shit, that's been mythologized to the point where its stock trades at an 89-1 P/E. A company that has never turned a profit in its history, nor will it ever, and actually only generates revenue by selling the carbon credits it gets from the US government to other polluters for billions and billions of dollars. That is where the cash is coming from to keep Tesla's doors open. It is not car sales, because they haven't sold shit. Okay, compared to Toyota, Tesla's like 100 miles down the road behind them. And by the way, the Prius is a much better vehicle, and it's a hybrid. And unfortunately, we still live in a petrochemical world. Hybrids, they last longer, they work better, but you still have the problem of getting rid of the batteries. Goddamn, this is a whole nother podcast. But anyway, the biggest, oldest company in the United States of America sells crap. They don't build houses, they don't grow food. Oh, by the way, they are partial owners of Monsanto, so they're good at genetically modifying crops, but they don't really produce anything of any value to anybody whatsoever. But they make a whole lot of money selling lies. And that is corporate America to a T, and late stage capitalism for all of us to see if only we would pay attention. And I love the premise, because literally this is a Christian company. That's why it says for God. I'm not sure whose. I just don't see the bearded Jew getting behind promoting Coca-Cola. But apparently God has something to do with it. Fuck, I don't know. All I know is absolutely unbelievable and a perfect metaphor for the times we currently live in. Moving on. A couple of things. If you are a TikTok viewer, poster, creator, you've noticed a massive shift in the algorithm. I personally have. Now, granted, I don't have a huge following on TikTok. I got like 12,500 followers, 25,000 likes, minimal numbers in compared to the TikTok universe, and I understand that. That's all right. I just like being able to get my message out there in an immediate way on a daily basis. But the algorithm has definitely changed. And if you mention anything on there that is even remotely political, and if it's anything anti-right, anything about Israel, Palestine, Gaza, genocide, you name it, Schindler, you're banned, you're not promoted, it's not showing up on anybody's For You page, and it's obvious. And if you are a TikTok user, make it apparent that you're not happy about that, because it's ironic that all of this happened after the Orange God interceded on behalf of TikTok, like they fucking needed help anyway, because they weren't going away. But miraculously, after an 8-hour shutdown, whoa, they're back up. Like that. Prior to him actually being inaugurated into office. Funny how that worked out. Or no, right after. Long story short, there's a right-wing slant to the algorithm now. On my own feed, I'm now getting mega post after mega post. And apparently, by being a non-religious person, myself, that's how I like to describe myself, is I'm non-religious. Now I'm getting bombarded with Christian posts as well. Fucked up. I just skip right on by. But the algorithm has changed. And if you're one of the people that noticed, please comment, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. All right, so I'm going to move into kind of a few points of what's been happening in our political world in the just literally, I mean, shit, oh dear, like, let's say the last week, okay? Folks, we were all worried that this was going to go straight into a theocratic dictatorship, because that is the goal of Project 2025. I mean, it's spelled out in black and white. And for all of you people that are too fucking lazy to actually pull up Project 2025, all 932 pages of it on Google, and actually read it, get your head out of your asses, because what's happening in the national government is exactly what they wrote down. And their ultimate goal, and they said with no ands, ifs, or buts, a white, Christian, nationalist, theocratic dictatorship. Period, done, the end. Now, they're well on their way to implementing the plan. And the plan might actually work if they weren't such fucking idiots. See, the problem is when you appoint political lackeys, lick-spittles, ass-kissers, people that have no qualification to do jobs, to positions at the upper levels, upper echelons of our federal government, they fuck it up. And there is a reason why there are 3 branches of our government: executive, legislative, and judicial, separate from each other on purpose. One of the things that the original founders, the writers of the Constitution, actually did that actually was fucking smart, because all these inept executive orders and actions, from laying off Forest Service workers, gutting veterans affairs, my God, we can't even take care of our own veterans. I mean, I'm not a military person, but shit, oh dear, if somebody's willing to risk their life to serve the country, they ought to be taken care of, or at least have avenues for good health care, mental health care. Not everybody's on the front line either, okay? We think veterans as guys out there shooting guns. It's not just that. There's supply, logistics, mechanical. I mean, there's so many different forms of serving in the military. But all of them matter, because it's a machine. And if all the parts don't work in a machine, it doesn't run. So they all deserve to be supported after they've served. And to cut the Veterans Administration, to cut health care for them, to cut access to mental health care, to cut access to housing, to loans, to college tuition, all of the shit that was in the Veterans Act in the first place, which was written after World War II. Why? To support veterans. It came in really handy after Korea. It didn't come in handy after Vietnam, but after Iraq and Afghanistan. Anyway, you get my point here. It's vital. And to cut that, to eliminate fraud and make it more efficient is a fucking joke. And I'm just gonna blanket this. All of the cuts to everything from the Department of Education, which I'm gonna go into a little deeper here in a few minutes, to the Environmental Protection Agency, to the Food and Drug Administration, to the Federal Communication Administration, to the Consumer Protection Agency. All of these cuts aren't saving us any money. What they're doing, and have you noticed something in all of those agencies that I just mentioned that are being cut? Something stick out to you? Are you aware? Are you a smart person? Do you observe? Can you deduce logic? If you run through the list of agencies that are being cut or eliminated, all of those agencies affect who? Right. Come on, you got it. Come on. Let me help you. Average Americans. They loosen the chains and the regulations that keep corporations from destroying our livelihoods, the food and water we consume, the very air that we breathe, the access to the recreational spaces set aside purely for the public. All of it. Every one of these cuts, every one of these eliminations does not affect the upper 0.1% of this country. If anything, it enables them, it empowers them, and more importantly, it enriches them. We are a mere 60 plus days into the Trump regime, and the level of corruption that we've already seen. Think about it. This is March, man. Just got inaugurated in fucking January. And the level of corruption that we're already seeing is unlike anything that's been seen in American politics since the Civil War. And that is a fact. Since the robber barons, after the Civil War. If you don't know what a robber baron is, look up Rothschild. Look up J.P. Morgan. Look up Stanley. Look up any of the big brand names that are out there right now today and dig down into where their roots lie. Then you'll understand. We have not seen this level of corruption since the Civil War, and we're only 60 days in. And if that doesn't really make you just go, holy fuck, then I really honestly don't know what will. What can you imagine? Can you imagine the fact that we still have 3 years and 10 more months of this chaos, this absurdity, and that the only thing that's standing between them being able to do what they want is our judicial system? That's it. Our House and Senate, our Congress, is absolutely impotent and useless. Case in point, I'm going to get to some of my bullet points here now. Got to watch the clock. Chuck Schumer and the budget resolution that was just passed last week. This was probably the Democrats' only opportunity to fuck with this political, what am I trying to say? With this political coup. That's what it is. It's a fucking coup. Okay? And if you don't know what a coup is, fucking Google it. Okay? The Democrats had an opportunity in the Senate, if nothing else, just to have a fuck you moment and show that they had a set of balls. And they fucked it up. They caved. Chuck Schumer should no longer be the leader of the minority party. Chuck Schumer is a dinosaur. Chuck Schumer still thinks he's fighting a fight that he lost 20 fucking years ago. It's over. The Democratic Party still does not understand, which I find unbelievable, and which I believe is why we so desperately need a third party in American politics. And I'm going to harp on that in this podcast for as long as I can. We desperately need a third party because the two-party system is irrevocably broken. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, but it's a necessity for democracy in this country to regain a sense of balance. Without it, we're going to be stuck in this same fucking bullshit ad nauseum as long as it goes on. And the more the oligarchs are allowed to buy in to our political process, i.e. Elon Musk giving $250 million to the Trump campaign, you don't think that thumb on the scales made all the difference? If you don't think that, well, I think you're fucking stupid. He bought the election, period fucking the end. Sidebar again, Elon Musk. Holy shit. This dude is batshit crazy. Just lost his fucking marbles. I don't know if it's the ketamine. I don't know if it's his autism. I don't really frankly care. I think the dude's always been fucking nuts. He just was hiding being fucking nuts until he became the richest man in the world. And now he doesn't give a fuck that he's fucking nuts because he's like, what's anybody gonna do to me? And considering how he owns the government right now, I mean, literally, what are they gonna do to him? Anyway, back to Chuck Schumer. Look, man, Chuck Schumer never learned from Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's done more damage to our democracy, this democratic republic, which is what it really is, than anybody in the history of the Senate, okay? And Chuck Schumer watched all of it. And he did nothing. And he still fought like a pussy. I know that was misogynistic and sexist, and I apologize, but he fought a bare-knuckle fist fight with a pair of velvet gloves on. Ooh, let me get you. Ooh. No, Chuck. You're in a bare-knuckle fist fight, and the other side will go scorched earth. They've already proved it. They proved it. And yet, you still don't get it. You're fired. John Fetterman, you were cool during COVID with your hoodies and your left-wing liberalism and your progressivism. You have no business being in the Senate. You are in over your head, and you're drinking the Kool-Aid now, and you're still trying to find compromise. Newsflash. You cannot compromise with people that will not compromise with you. You cannot set boundaries with people that step over the boundaries. It doesn't work. You either wipe them out or you turn around and you walk away. Those are your only two alternatives. Narcissists cannot be cured. Got it? There is no compromise. And the Democrats still continuing to try to find compromise is laughable, and it's an embarrassment to every intelligent American. Absolute embarrassment. And Chuck, you just lost any legitimacy you ever had. And what you had, you were hanging on to by a thread to begin with. You're a mamby-pamby. You should fucking retire. You suck. The Democrats had one opportunity just to fuck with the wheels. Would a federal government shutdown been cataclysmic? Oh my God. Maybe. Would it be any more cataclysmic than what's already happening? Doubtful. Hard to fire people when they're on furlough. It was an opportunity to throw sand in the engine, and it was dropped. The House never had a chance. They're outnumbered. It's a party line vote, straight down the line. The Senate had a choice, and they fucked it up. Chuck Schumer, shame on your ass. I don't ever want to see you babbling your fucking nonsense on TV again. You're a waste of oxygen. Retire. Moving on. Okay, the elimination of the Department of Education. This is just so counterintuitive to any party, okay? So counterintuitive. The future of this country is our children. And their future depends on their education. Granted, we've already got a fucking pathetic education system for what's supposed to be the richest country in the world that happens to be $37 trillion in debt. However, we're the richest country in the world. We have the 60th ranked educational system in the world. They do a better job in Nigeria. They do a better job in Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Venezuela, Brazil, Mexico. Cutting the Department of Education, which was built in 1979, implemented in 1980, is so unbelievably stupid. Our education system was just limping along on life support, and now you killed it. And the whole fallacy of, oh, we'll leave it up to the states don't have the money. States don't write student loans. That's the federal government's job. That's why we pay taxes. So our kids can have education. So kids, K through 12, can get lunch at school. So kids aren't segregated and sent to different schools based on their color. You leave it up to the states. What do you think's going to happen in the South? Isn't this what they've been itching for anyway? Isn't this what white nationalism, Christian white nationalism is all about? You get the white part? It's not about the other Christians that aren't white. White Christian nationalism means exactly what it sounds like. Not only have you fucked up K through 12, we can barely hire teachers as it is. Talk about a thankless job. I remember a time when we went to school and we were given school supplies. Now the parents have to buy them. And if you're in a lower income school, because they are divided geographically by income, teachers are buying simple things like notebooks, pencils, erasers for kids because their parents can't afford to. And the kids show up to school without them. And how in the world are they supposed to learn? How are kids supposed to learn on an empty stomach? Shame on you. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. Please rot in hell. Shame on you. The children of this country are the future of this country. And the pig-headed, greedy, selfish, narcissistic billionaires that are running this country are all about themselves. Period. And it's disgusting. Now, in addition to that, higher education. The idea here, apparently, is after eliminating the Department of Education, they're going to move student loans over to the Small Business Association. This I just find so laughable, it makes me, a recovering alcoholic, want to go out and get fucking drunk. Okay? Okay. So the SBA, let's do a little bit of a deep dive here, and I'm going to try to make this kind of quick. The SBA, first of all, was responsible for handing out the PPP loans during COVID. We now have learned that almost 50% of those loans handed out were fraudulent. And why? Because the Small Business Administration, the SBA, did not have the staff to qualify each loan. They just passed them on through because their job was to hand out as many loans to business owners, mind you, not individuals, business owners, as possible. Okay? So there's a certain level of ineptitude there. But now, the suggestion is that the 40 million existing student loans, in addition to the prospective 10 million applications for student loans in the next 12 months, are going to be managed and processed by the SBA. Do I need to elaborate on that? Think about it. The Small Business Administration, this administration that could not handle the PPP loans during COVID, is now somehow going to manage 50 million individual student loans, not including FAFSA and Pell Grants. They're going to be responsible for that as well, because that was Department of Education, but Department of Education no longer, or is on its way to no longer existing. Now, don't you worry. The new head of the SBA, Miss Laughlin, the former WNBA owner and failed Senate candidate from Georgia because she was such a racist bitch nobody wanted her in office, although she tried twice, says everything's going to be just fine. There's nothing to worry about here. We got this. And in furtherance of her argument and proof that she's so on top of her administration, just yesterday, she touted her accomplishment of reducing the SBA workforce by 30%. So now instead of 6,700 employees at the SBA, and do the math on how much that's costing the federal government, because the employees aren't the same as the money that the SBA doles out. Don't get them confused. The Republicans like to conflate the numbers so it looks like, oh, look at all the money we're saving by cutting this from the SBA. Bullshit and bow wow. When you cut people, all you're doing is eliminating salaries. The money they loan is federal money. I guess you could save money by not giving more loans. That kind of defeats the purpose though, doesn't it? But in her infinite wisdom, she came out and so proudly stated, I've cut the SBA by 30%. Look at what I did. And then they increased the workload by 400%. Now you tell me that 4,200 people are going to be able to handle 50 million individual loans, and as I mentioned, FAFSA, Pell Grants, etc., efficiently, promptly, competently? No. Don't be confused, because when they fail, the whole purpose of all this, by the way, in the long run, is to privatize all this. Why? Golly gee, those shady payday lenders, they want this book of business. Because then they can hound you, they can threaten you, they can fuck up your credit. Oh my God, and the money they will make. That's what the end goal of all of this is, because the SBA will fail in this totally absurd, stupid idea to begin with. That somehow, some way, some magical wand will appear and 4,200 employees will be able to sort this out. No fucking way. This makes almost as much sense as cutting the IRS by 30%. When the IRS is how the US government gets paid. That'd be like firing cashiers at Wendy's. Who's going to collect the money? All of these things are counterintuitive. None of it makes sense. And this is why this white Christian nationalist theocratic dictatorship is imploding before it even gets in the air. The balloon hasn't even lifted off and it's already leaking so much gas, it's about to explode. Because of incompetent ideas, policies, and naive decision making on the spur of the moment. None of this is thought out. And it's all run by inept people that only got their job because they kissed the ring of the dear leader. Anyway, once again, this is Unbelievable Reality Podcast. I am Roy Arthur, and these are my opinions. Yes, they are. And if you don't agree, then don't fucking watch. If you do, subscribe. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Spotify. And stick around. I can't even imagine what I get to talk about next. Because this shit show, this clown train is going to keep chugging along. And more absurdities are going to be our reality. I'd like to say this is going to be entertaining, but I don't find any of this entertaining.